I go, here I go. Yeah, here I go, here I go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Take. I'm your host, Jackson Burleson, of course, and in today's episode, the Final Four is set for San Antonio, Texas. So we're going to go ahead and give you all my picks in this episode, and we're going to recap the Elite Eight games. We're going to give you my thoughts on that. Before we get into all of that, make sure to hit the subscribe button, like this video, comment, hit the notification bell, and share this with your family, friends, anybody you may know who likes sports, because this podcast, by the way, it's absolutely spectacular, okay? I just have to put that out there. Maybe a little bit of a biased opinion, but I would like to think that it's pretty dang good. And we come out here with some hot takes, okay? In this game between Michigan State and Auburn, it was not a great game, but it wasn't a bad game. It wasn't as bad as Tennessee-Houston, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that. I'll give you my thoughts on that game later because that game was atrocious. But Auburn, they beat Michigan State in a pretty convincing fashion, in my opinion, to advance to their second Final Four in their program's history. In Michigan State, they brought the fight. They brought the fight. They were hanging around at the end of the game. They were creating turnovers. They were actually doing a great job at the end of the game, pressing Auburn full court and making Auburn make bad decisions with the basketball. That's one thing that Auburn needs to do better when they play Florida in the Final Four. They cannot be not having good guards in the press. It just didn't seem like they were able to handle it that well. But I mean, this brother is special. Johni Broome, I mean, he is a fantastic player. I mean, this dude was dominating inside from the opening tip. I mean, it just looked too easy for him out there. I mean, he's too big. He's too skilled. He put the defense on edge. I mean, there were times when Michigan State was triple teaming this man. That's how good he is. That's how good he is. I mean, he's had 5 double-doubles in the NCAA tournament, which is tied with 2 other people for the most by an SEC player ever, Shaq and Jeff Moore. I mean, he is an elite company. I mean, Johni Broome and Cooper Flagg, that's really the race for National Player of the Year. But I mean, Johni Broome, he has a case, honestly. I mean, this man had a double-double in the first half against Michigan State. In the first half. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Johni Broome, he plays like Nikola Jokic. He's a good passer. He can shoot the ball. I think his handle needs to get a little bit tighter. But I mean, just for the NBA level, but for the college level, it's fine. I mean, no one's really picking his pocket when it comes to these guys in the low post. And he's just got a really good feel for the game. He's not the most athletic guy ever, but he's a very smart basketball player. And it really does help when you have all these shooters around him that Auburn does have. And I've just been so impressed with Tahad Pettiford. This freshman has been coming off the bench all year, has been knocking down big shots. He can control the game with his ball handling. He is an elite ball handler. He was showcasing that against Michigan State, splitting the defense, shooting the 3 ball. He only had 10 points today, but like, he is a difference maker for this Auburn Tigers team. And I just think Michigan State got overwhelmed by the guard play at the beginning of this game and Johni Broome. I mean, Tom Izzo said going into this game that they were going to double team Johni Broome. And honestly, there's no one good way to beat this man, because if you double team him, he's going to find the open man. If you don't double team him, he's going to cook you one-on-one. I mean, it's kind of a bad situation for any basketball team that has to scout and get ready for Johni Broome, because he's just so incredibly talented. But he did have a pretty scary injury in this game. His leg went almost inwards, and his elbow, he hurt his elbow too. He also hurt his shoulder in the game as well. So he went back to the locker room after a scary leg injury, came back in the game, hit a three. This crowd was going crazy in Atlanta. I mean, absolutely insane. Insane. I mean, talk about a great fan base. Bruce Pearl said it best. I mean, Auburn Tigers have a great fan base, and they've been the best team in the country all year. They've had arguably the best player in the country in Janai Broome. They have really good guard play, and they have depth. I mean, they're bringing like at least 4 or 5 guys off the bench every single game, getting guys fresh legs. And they also have Caldwell as well. He's a really good big man. He complements Janai Broome a lot. So I like this Auburn team. It'll be an interesting test against Florida to see how they can really respond after getting blown out at home the last time they played them. So we'll talk about that matchup in a little bit, but let's go ahead and move on to Houston versus Tennessee. I mean, this game was absolutely an atrocious shooting day for the Tennessee Volunteers. They still haven't made a Final Four yet in their program's history. They've been so close every single year. They made the Elite Eight last year and they lost to Purdue. They made the Elite Eight this year and lost to Houston. And I honestly just think it was the Houston defense that really just threw off Tennessee right away. I mean, Houston was making it so difficult. They ran a zone against Tennessee. Tennessee was chucking up so many threes. I mean, they only hit 1 3 in the first half. I think they were like 1 for 15 from the 3-point line in the first half. I mean, that is god awful. And they also only scored 15 points in the first half. I mean, that is literally like the lowest amount for a top 2 seeded team. I mean, that was not something you want to see from a Volunteers team that has just been, I mean, they've been pretty good this year, but they were only allowing, I think it was like 0.52 points per possession in the first half at some point. I mean, Houston's defense all season long has been so consistent. It's been the best in the country all year long. I mean, that's why they went 19-1 in the Big 12. They absolutely dominated the Big 12. They've been really good defensively in this tournament. Now, they did get a little lucky against Purdue, which I did come on here and say Purdue wasn't going to give Houston a close game. I was mistaken on that. I mean, I should have thought about, Indianapolis. It's a very simple thing, but like Purdue fans in Indianapolis, you should have thought about that. But Kelvin Sampson, he is an absolutely fantastic coach. This is his second Final Four with the Houston Cougars, and he talked about just what his team has done this year after a just absolutely dominant win against the Tennessee Volunteers.
Kudos to them. Really proud of this bunch. I think the reason why we've been so good over the years is we've developed a great culture that our seniors adopt and make sure that our young kids and new kids buy into it. We're kind of a homegrown program, and we bring kids in as freshmen. And it's been a secret sauce of ours. And, we've had 2 kids the last 2 years in the portal, LJ, who came from Baylor, and Milos, who came from Oklahoma.
Yeah, we'll talk about LJ Cryer real quick because he's been a phenomenal player all season long for the Houston Cougars. I mean, he just has been an absolute bucket getter when he needs to be. I mean, he can create space off the dribble. He can shoot the 3. He can drive to the basket. And the crazy part about Houston in this game is that, I mean, their best interior presence, Juwan Roberts, got 2 fouls right out of the gate, and they didn't have him for pretty much the entire first half, and they still were dominating inside. I mean, Houston scored 30 points in the paint to Tennessee's 14. And the thing about Tennessee is they weren't getting any spacing. I mean, their spacing was awful all game. And when Coach Barnes got interviewed during the game, he said that. And that continued on the whole game. And I honestly think that Tennessee, they lost this game within the first 10 minutes. I mean, they were not going to come back in this game. They did try in the second half. They cut it to 10 at one point. But if you have that bad of a first half, it's very hard to win this types of games, especially against a Houston team that is so good on defense. And they've been so good all year long. I mean, they don't turn the ball over. They have good guards. They're experienced. And Kelvin Sampson, he is one of the best coaches in the country. And they're going to have their hands full against Duke. But I really think this is the best team that can match up with Duke. They have size. They have good guard play. I mean, and they're great defensively. I mean, I think this is going to be the toughest game that Duke has had all year long. All year long. And we're going to talk about that game in a little bit because I'm so excited about this Final Four, guys. I mean, this Final Four is loaded. Loaded. I mean, this is the first Final Four. This is the first Final Four with 4 1 seeds since 2008. And we all know what happened in 2008. It was also in San Antonio. I mean, the national title game was Memphis versus Kansas, and Mario Chalmers hit the game winner. We all know who was on Memphis that year. It was Derrick Rose. But that was a great Final Four. I mean, we're set up for some fireworks in San Antonio, Texas, and I can't wait. And if I would have not picked the upsets this year, I probably would have had a pretty good bracket, in my opinion. I mean, there were only 11 upsets this year, which is the worst, which is the least amount ever. That's pretty remarkable, if you ask me. Like, when you talk about this tournament, it's the fewest ever. The fewest ever. I mean, all right, quick interruption into this podcast. Please keep supporting me with hitting the subscribe button, liking this video, hitting the notification bell, and sharing your thoughts on some of my takes so far in this video. Go ahead and drop a comment and see what you guys think of what I've said it this far. And also share with anybody you may know. If they want to watch this podcast, I want them to make sure that this podcast exists because we're trying to get this to 1,000 subscribers. So I appreciate the support, you guys. And let me know what kind of videos you would like to see in the future and what kind of things and guests would you like me to bring on, because I'm trying to cater it to you guys. This is not about me. So thank you guys for the support. Now let's jump right back into the pod. And I just don't know what to say about this point guard out of University of Florida. Walter Clayton Jr., the most slept on NBA draft prospect in 2025. Not even close. I mean, the fact that this man is the 41st projected overall pick, according to Tankathon, that is disrespectful. This guy, in my opinion, should be a top 15 draft pick. He has size. He can handle the ball. He shoots at an elite clip. I mean, this guy in the NCAA tournament is averaging 22 points per game, 45% from the field, 45% from three. I mean, this is an amazing player. And he literally had a Steph Curry moment against Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. This man pulled it. He was in the paint, dribbled out to the three-point line, and just immediately shot it. I mean, it reminded me of the 2015 Steph Curry three-pointer, minus the handles when he hit it against the Clippers. And even reporters agreed. So this is our play of the week, man, because Walter Clayton Jr. has been waking me up in this NCAA tournament. We all knew he was a great player, but he has risen to the occasion each and every time. I mean, Florida needed clutch baskets against Texas Tech. I mean, they were down 10 at one point with like 5 minutes to go. And Walter Clayton Jr. just continued to step up. I mean, he had 13 points in the last 5 minutes. In the last 5 minutes. Dog. He had 30 in the game. He had almost half of his points in 5 minutes. And we're going to play this play of the week right now because I just need you guys to soak this in. And then I'm going to go a little bit more in detail of this Texas Tech and Florida Gators game. So play of the week right here. Get your popcorn and put your seatbelts in right now because you got to get ready for this.
I pretty much knew what was coming. Inside Clayton. The Gators have recaptured the lead. Well, they stopped Clayton in the paint on the cut. And he just dribbles it out. He dribbles it out, and they were late getting to him.
Walt, we asked you the other day about what it was like to be compared to Steph Curry. You did a pretty good impression of him tonight. I wondered, before you hit the shot that tied it, because then the next three you hit that gave you guys the lead was probably the biggest shot you've ever hit. The one before it was the biggest shot. What was the biggest shot like coming into this game that you had ever hit?
I don't know. If you ask everybody, it was probably the one versus UConn. But no, honestly, I can't even remember right now. So I'll probably say UConn one.
I mean, holy mackerel, this kid is talented. He's so incredibly talented. I mean, he had 30 points in this game. He went absolute bananas. And Texas Tech, they had Florida on the ropes, man. I mean, Florida was on the ropes for the past couple games. I mean, they've had to come back. Came back against UConn, won that game. I mean, this team is just ready to win. I mean, they have a lot of size. They have Condon. They have Ha. They've got Elijah Martin. They have Walter Clayton Jr. I mean, this Florida team is stacked. I mean, they're ready to roll at the wheel. And they're going to the Final Four. And it's just been impressive to watch Walter Clayton Jr. just shine all tournament long. And for Florida to just have this resiliency of being down 10. I mean, JT Toppin, he's a projected second-round pick in the NBA draft. He was cooking. I mean, that left hook was just lethal. It's been lethal all tournament long. And Texas Tech, they had a comeback of their own against Arkansas and forced overtime. I mean, that was a fantastic game. And then now they get the opposite done to them. So very bittersweet in Lubbock right now as the Texas Tech Red Raiders go home. But Deron Williams, he had an opportunity to tie the game at the top of the three-point line, and he couldn't convert. He was wide open. I mean, Texas Tech had opportunities to win this game, and they honestly lost this game at the free throw line because they were not shooting the ball well at the free throw line at all. I mean, they were shooting 53% from the free throw line. I mean, that cannot happen if you're any basketball team that wants to win. And that was the difference maker for Texas Tech, was their free throws. They had multiple opportunities, and they just couldn't get it done. And then this is Duke versus Alabama. I mean, this game was quite honestly shocking the way it went because Duke controlled this game from the opening tip. And you could just tell that Alabama did not have the size that Duke had right away. I mean, Cooper Flagg comes out, hits a three right away, and then Duke was just clamping up Mark Sears all game long. All game long. I mean, you talk about just a flip of the script. Man didn't even have 10 points in this matchup, and he came off a 34-point performance with just an absolute clinic from the three-point line. I mean, I don't even know how you shut a guy down like that. He hit 10 threes against BYU in the Sweet 16. I mean, he went cold. I mean, that's what happened. Duke just contained Mark Sears. They made it very difficult for him. And it's just so hard because, I mean, Con Knippel, he is their point guard. He's and Tyrese Proctor, those guys are one of their smallest guys, and they're not small. I mean, Con Knippel's like 6'7". He makes it very disruptive, and he is a great shooter. I mean, this man had 21 points. He was knocking down corner threes, hitting lobs to Malach, which, I mean, Malach is a beast. This dude was catching lobs pretty much on every basket he scored, and he was blocking shots. I mean, this Duke team is elite defensively. I mean, they blew out Alabama. I mean, they really put it to them. And I was just shocked on how small Alabama looked in that game. I mean, they were not able to get anything going in the paint. They had such a hard time. dealing with Duke's offense. I mean, it's so hard to guard Duke because you can't double team anybody. Everybody is really, really good. You can't double team Cooper Flagg because he's an elite passer. He just, and the thing is, Cooper Flagg didn't even play like insane. Like he didn't have like a fantastic game. Like Cooper Flagg has yet to go off like for a crazy game in this tournament yet. But he doesn't even need to because this Duke team is so good. I mean, they have a lot of depth. Their starting five is complete. They're very well coached by Jon Scheyer, who has had the pressure of living up to Coach K. And he is doing that. He is doing that. And the last time Duke had a 35-win season, they won the national championship in 2015. And here's Jon Scheyer after the game about that pressure of coaching Duke.
Coach K, to be able to have the vision. I don't know how many coaches genuinely want to see the program succeed when they leave. And for me, I've always wanted to make him proud of him of him wanting to. Part of his legacy isn't just the wins. I want his legacy to be how our program continues to, be right there as a top program. And that's something Coach K and I have talked a lot about. And so obviously there's a responsibility you feel and a pride, but this hasn't been about outside noise for me because it just, I don't know if you can ever win. But so my energy has gone into everybody that's in our building, our team, what we can control. And I just couldn't be more proud and thankful for having a group that's believed in me, us, the support from our administration, just down the line, has been incredible. So I'm really proud of the people that have believed in me and us to get this to get to a Final Four.
I mean, Jon Scheyer, first of all, he's played under Coach K, so he knows exactly what he's doing. He was a captain of that 2010 national title team. He's been an assistant coach for a long time. He was groomed to be in this position, and he's just taken it and ran with it. And it really does help to have the number one player in the country. I mean, Cooper Flagg is insanely talented. I can't believe this kid's only 18 years old. I mean, it's absolutely crazy how good he is at this age and how big he is. I mean, talk about a guy who's just a freak of nature. I mean, all the stories from this past summer of him, playing against the U.S. team and actually holding his own and playing well, that's something that you're like, you can't teach that. You can't teach it. And there's just there's always so much pressure on Duke to win. And this year, it just seems like there hasn't been pressure. They've just been doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. They've been doing it. I mean, they're 30-1 in their last 31 games. I mean, they've been really good. 14-game win streak. I mean, they've been dominant this year. Dominant. And people said, well, they're in the ACC. They played in the weak conference all year. I don't think it really matters. I mean, they were the best team in the country all year, in my opinion, over Auburn. It didn't even matter. I just feel like Duke with these freshmen don't fade away from the moment. They don't. I mean, they rise to the occasion. A lot of freshmen you see crumble, but not these guys. Not these guys. It seems like they've been here before, and they're making a run for the national championship. And they're going to play Houston, that is an insane game right there. And we're going to go ahead and move on to JB's picks, courtesy of DraftKings. We moved from Florida, so we got to change our betting odds. Can't use Hard Rock anymore, so not here in Florida, but let's go ahead and give you my first pick of the Final Four. My first pick is Duke minus 205 over Houston. I mean, I just think, like kind of what I just said. I mean, Jon Scheyer, he's a great coach. I mean, he is up there for the first 3 seasons of his coaching career. He has 80-plus wins, and that's up there with Brad Stevens. I mean, he's an elite company when it comes to young college basketball coaches. And they just dominated Alabama, a team who had one of the best offenses in college basketball. They led college basketball in scoring I think they did lead college basketball in scoring this year. Yes, 90.7 points per game. And they held this Alabama team to nothing on offense. They couldn't find nothing on offense. And I just think Houston's defense and Duke's offense is just going to be very interesting to watch. I will say I don't think Houston has the offensive firepower to keep up with Duke's offense. That's why I'm going with Duke because, I mean, Houston has players that can score, but I've never really seen Houston consistently put up 90 or 80 points. I mean, they beat Tennessee pretty convincingly. They held them to 50, but they didn't even score 80 points in that game. And they really didn't play all that well offensively. They were just really getting to the line in the first half and creating turnovers. So that's one thing that concerns me about Houston. I just don't know if they have enough offense to match Duke and their offense. They have the defense, but if they can really stop Duke's offense, then Houston really has a chance. But I don't really see Duke's offense slowing down at any point. But if any team can do it, it's the number one defense in the country. So, but I'll go Duke for now. And the second pick is Florida minus 142 over Auburn. I mean, I just think watching Florida and Auburn's last game when they played in the regular season, I mean, Florida came in there and they dominated Auburn in all facets of the game at Auburn. I mean, they destroyed them. Walter Clayton Jr., he was a beast in that game. I mean, they have so much size to be able to guard Johni Broome. And I just think Florida this year, they just look different. I mean, they just look different. They look ready to win. They have one of the best players in the nation in Walter Clayton Jr. I think he's the best guard in college basketball. I'm just going to put that out there. I think Walter Clayton Jr. is the best guard in college basketball. He can control a game at any moment. He can take over a game. That's a guy I want on my team. And Auburn, they have Johni Broome, but I would rather have Walter Clayton Jr. in the Final Four than Johni Broome, especially when it comes to clutch situations and to get me out of deep holes, because Auburn, they did not play well when it was against Florida. They started out slow, and they really weren't able to crawl their way back into the game. And Florida has a good defense. And the thing about Florida dominating against Auburn in that game in the regular season, Florida didn't even have Elijah Martin, who's one of their best players. And Elijah Martin is now playing. That's a big difference maker. That's why I'm going Florida. I think Florida is going to not dominate. I think Auburn's going to have a better game plan this time around. But I think Florida, in a close game, I'm going them. They have better closers than Auburn, in my opinion. And since we got national championship up here, I got Florida and Duke in the national title game. And in my bracket, I have Florida. And I'm going to stick with Florida to win the national championship. I've been talking about Walter Clayton Jr. all podcast long. I think he's the difference maker. I'm going to really enjoy that one because I think Con Knippel and that matchup with Walter Clayton Jr. is going to be absolutely just fantastic. And I do think that Florida has the length to keep up with Duke in the national title game. So give me Florida to win the national championship. And that is going to go ahead and do it for today's episode of The Take. That was actually the hardest thing I've ever had to say in my life, was Florida winning the national title. Ooh, I can't believe I just said that on live. But make sure to hit the subscribe button, like this video, comment, and share this podcast with everybody. Comment who you think is going to win the national title game. Comment who you got in the Final Four and what you guys thought of the NCAA tournament this year. I loved the NCAA tournament this year. I've been glued to the TV for March Madness nonstop. And we are finally at the best part of the season, but it's bittersweet because it's about to end. But after college basketball, we're going to be talking about baseball, NBA. So we got a lot coming up here shortly on The Take. But I'm Jackson Burleson, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice. I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Broadway paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my